Before we begin, may I ask you something? Have you ever been in a season where survival was your only strategy? Where comfort was a luxury you couldn't afford and quitting felt easier than continuing? Today's episode is not about glamour, it's about grit. If you are in your grit years right now, this one is for you. Stay tuned with me. Hello everyone, my name is Victoria Omolara Dilibe. This is LarrisFootprints, inspiring you to write your own footprints. And today I will be talking to you on my survival mode. Survival from what? Survival from everything that I went through. So, years back, you remember I told you I was a single mom and I had a son. So, what happened to me? How did I survive? How did I navigate, job, taking care of a child, and being a single mom all in one? The first thing that I did, I was so very careful with my finances. I made sure that I was saving while I was doing so many other things. One of such was, years back, I had a woman who was coming to the bank every single morning to make deposit, and I was a teller. And this woman, someday I had the courage to say, "What are you doing for a living?" And she said, Lara, all I do is sell birds, that is chicken and eggs. I said, "Really? And you're bringing all this money to the bank?" And she said, you guys do the white collar job. I said, "No, if this is what you do, then I want to be party to it." Long story short, she now introduced me to how I can retail eggs, and I went doing that. Do you know that every morning before I get to the office by 7:30, I'm in this woman's store to retail eggs, and whatever I cannot retail, I stock it in my trunk and I take it to the bank. My colleagues will buy from me. Then in the evening, I will go around the what in the northern part of Nigeria they call Meshai. All the Meshai store that is close to my office and close to my home, and we go and retail eggs to them. Ironically, they didn't know I was working in the bank. All they knew is that there's this corporate woman that comes to sell eggs to us, and they were buying from me. So all those proceeds I was getting, I was also saving it. I did that for a couple of months, and I think a little over a year. So talking about how I was able to, balance my finances and get extra income to take care of myself. So those were one of the things I did. So that income that I made from the sale of eggs and the savings from my bank salary, I was putting it together. And at that time, there was this vogue in town. People were going to Dubai, traveling to Dubai. And I sat down one day and I said, "This Dubai trip, how far?" I started making research. But what I had that time as savings could not take me anywhere. So I was making an inquiry and I said, "How do I get to Dubai?" After making all this inquiry, I realized that the little money that I had can't take me to Dubai. So I had a friend then who was a manager in the bank. I'm sure that friend might be watching me today. And I approached him. I said, "Please, I need a loan." He looked at me, "You this small girl, what do you want to use loan for?" I said, "I want to travel to Dubai, but I don't have enough money." He said, "Hey." I told him what I needed, and even though he was skeptical, but he knew that I had this driving force to succeed against all odds. So he gave it to me. Then I changed the money, and even tickets, I couldn't afford tickets. So I went to a traveling agency and I said, please, I need to travel, but I have half money of my ticket. The man looked at me and he said, okay, young lady, I will give you this ticket, but make sure when you come back, you come and pay me my balance. I said yes. So I got the ticket, I got the soft loan. Then how do I get to Dubai? So every day when I come back from work, my bank work, I'll be talking to all my siblings, and this is my young son. Hey, I want to go to Dubai. I don't even know what to buy. Where will I sleep in Dubai? What will I do in Dubai? I didn't know my son was listening to me. So when he got to his school, he was discussing with his friends. Let me tell you, you woman out there, that sometimes you might think these kids are not listening to you. They are listening to you. They are also worried about your situation. How do I help my mom out of this situation? So he was discussing with his friend in school. This boy said, don't worry. My mom goes to Dubai all the time. In fact, her brother lives in Dubai. I'm going to tell my mom. So my son's friend discussed it with the mom, and he said, you have to change your flight because Mark's mom is traveling to Dubai and she needs help. So the mom switched her flight to Egypt Air the day I was to travel. Then the question was, how do you recognize this, your friend's mom? He said, don't worry, she wears low cuts. So I used to wear low cuts then. And we got into the air with the airplane. All my mind was different thoughts. How do I survive? And let me tell you, my trip was just for 3 days. Leaving Nigeria on Thursday, getting to Dubai on Friday, and you know in Dubai, Friday was like their Sunday. No work except skeletal work on Friday evening. So my thought was getting to Dubai, just getting into the market, doing what I need to do, getting all my stuff, Friday, Saturday, Sunday I'm back into the airplane, Monday I'm back into Nigeria. Your question will be, how will I do it? So I was in this airplane. I saw a woman walking around in the plane. And as soon as she got to me, she said, you must be Funshaw's mom. I said, yes. And who are you? She said, okay, I'm Funshaw's friend's mom. And I understand you are going to Dubai for the first time. Don't worry, I will help you. Oh my God, you need to see that sound of relief in me. Long story short, we got to Dubai. I stayed with her. They were the ones that paid for that accommodation. They also told me the likely things that I might get in Dubai that can sell. Long story short, I got all what I needed to do. I didn't pay a dime in accommodation, nothing. And by Sunday night, I was back in the airplane and I got back to Nigeria by 5 a.m. in the morning. Let me tell you, by 7:30 that morning, I was back to my job. Nobody ever believed I had gone international. I'm talking to that woman out there. It's survival of the fittest. When you find yourself in that kind of position, you don't, sit down. I keep re-echoing it in all my episodes. Don't pity yourself. Don't pity your situation. When I had my son, it was tough. Even though I had my parents, my siblings around me. Could you believe that on the day of this guy's naming ceremony, I couldn't even afford a decent clothing for him? It was tough, but I survived. I remembered one of my friends, she was my boss then, and we're still friends till tomorrow. Haji Aisha, I'm sure she's watching this. She literally came with a box of clothes for me, and I had to scramble through it to get the best out of it to wear for him. That was when I really took him out to take pictures. So we took pictures and everything. Also, I remember that sometimes I have to go extra mile to make sure that this boy doesn't lack anything? Do you know that once upon a time, I couldn't even afford diaper? What is diaper? I literally wrapped this boy in rags. And you know, then in Nigeria, back then, you will use whatever thing to cover him up. If you carry my son that time, all your clothes will be wet. Survival mode. But I did survive. So there were times that I had to take serious decision to travel for 3 days and be back out of the country. Decision to come back from work and be a producer. I was the producer manager for my own bottled sachet water factory. Decisions I had to take. And let me tell you, those decisions were not even sleeping at night. Once upon a time, all my night sleep was just 3-4 hours and I'm awake. Decisions that even with that, you know, working in the bank and doing all this small businesses, I still wanted to enhance my capacity and my capability in the banking industry. I had to go to school, full-time job, full-time master's degree. I will get back home and I will be awake doing assignments. If I can do it, you can do it. You see how I dabbled myself into so many things. Sometimes I sit down and I say, oh Lara, will you survive? Survival I did. How did motherhood change my life? Motherhood made me more responsible. Motherhood made me see that this child needs me even more than I need myself. Sometimes I almost gave up in life. And I know you that you're watching this right now, you're thinking of giving up. Don't give up. Look at that boy or that child and say, because of you, I will live. Motherhood wasn't a pizza party, but I did survive in it. How did it change me? You begin to ask, because that might be the question that is running in your mind. Like I told you initially, I became more responsible. I saved enough money to make sure that he got the best so that this boy will look up to me someday and said, indeed, my mom tried. And that's the situation that we are today. Sometimes you look at all these things and you even think that the world is even against you. And that's the reality. There were times where in the middle of this all, I forgot my son in school. Can you imagine? Because I was dealing with job, I was dealing with school, I was dealing with business. I know I'm talking to somebody, modeling everything together. And when it's time for me to go pick up my son from school, I will forget. In fact, the principal called me one day and sat me down. What is going on with you? Why are you always forgetting this boy in school? And I was telling her all my story in tears. And she said, don't worry. So she gave me hope. I'm giving that same hope to you today. That against all odds, you will survive. I'm telling you, you will survive. I'm sure you're saying, oh my God, Lara, you don't know what I'm going through. Yes, I do. Yours might be in a different dimension, but you will survive. There were times that even my baby food, I didn't have, regardless of all these things that I was working with. But I survived. I survived. I could go take credits, go to the store, you know, the local store close to my house. I go take credit of baby food, baby this, baby that, and I work towards paying it back. You will survive. If there's one thing that I want you to live with today, it is this. Survival mode is not weakness. It is a training ground. The late nights, the multiple jobs, the pure water, the exhales, the exhaustion, none of it was wasted. Consistency, not comfort, is what changes every outcome. If you're standing alone right now, don't panic. Stand firm. Remember, this is Larry's Footprints, inspiring everyone to write their own footprints.
If this episode inspires you, make sure you share the Footprints of a Fighter with someone who needs it. Drop all your thoughts and questions in the comment section. Let's build a community of fighters together. Larry's Footprints, the Footprints of a Fighter, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.